Hope you're doing great. I am. It's Mike's from livemyassoff.com. And the elite are using the police to dish out fines. Oh my goodness. Well, I can tell you right now that my more recent fine will be a copyright strike for sure. But I love that song. Can you be in a lousy mood and listen to that song? Rike naturally is here for the 80s music. Oh my goodness. No, we didn't have just an earthquake in Bangkok. I just have knobby knees. So welcome, my friends. I hope you're well. Triple X, baby. Caesar, good to see you. Is X the hug or is X the kisses? I can never remember. Haven't heard that tune in a long time. Very cool, man. Juan, good to see you. He's from San Diego. And the cool thing about the Steppin' Out channel is the fact that I found him because I was looking for various YouTube channels and found this guy who was doing a review of a Mexican restaurant about 4 miles from my house. And so I'm watching the thing, and if any of you YouTubers know anything about... or if you're not a YouTuber, then you know that you don't always do live shows, right? You do some that are you put it in the can, and so you basically go out with your camera and you come back and edit it, and well, sometimes that will be uploaded 2, 3, 4, 2 weeks later, sometimes, right? And so I said, dude, no way, you're down the street. Let's totally hang out. And he's like, we were there 2 weeks ago. Sorry, bro. So I apparently have reached the level of quality problem, which is the comments up there go by too fast for me to potentially answer them, and that is uncool.com. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, then obviously you can see there's the scroll on the other side. But if you don't know, I'm streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Facebook group, which a lot of you guys maybe have some interest in Asia, and maybe some of you are locked down. Anyway, there's this expats in Asia group, and that's on Facebook, and I'm streaming live over there too. And I'm also on Twitch and Periscope, which is Twitter. And it's pretty cool. And what happens is, over there on the right, is that little chat box aggregates all of the chat on the incoming folks. So on my personal Facebook, if you make a comment, then it'll show up there. Looks like we got 10 folks here on YouTube, 8. So that's cool. So anyway, what I will do is I will make sure I watch the chat in a different window so that I don't miss anybody. Because that would be lame. Brian says he thought this was tomorrow. Yeah, so in your world, it is your tomorrow. Today is Tuesday. And so I apologize. I never know really whether to put the title and time in the title, for example, because, the time here is, we're from the future over here in Southeast Asia. So we have an interesting... It's weird, right? Because I'm like, oh, yeah, hey, it's 9 in the morning on Tuesday. That makes sense to everybody, doesn't it? You guys like this microphone? I'm hoping that I got it hooked to this mixer. And I'm pretty pleased with the preamps in it. It really gives me that extra 10, or maybe even 20 dB of headroom that I'm looking for. So hopefully we get a thumbs up on the audio. This is the other one was an $8 microphone, which I actually improved the fidelity on, believe it or not. I'll try that again with you guys, maybe in another live stream. But on this one, I put a little bit more compression in there. And I want to get some highs, because I know once this goes through the streaming, then it kind of, So, no way. Hey, awesome. So if you guys if you look up there, or if you want to click on that, actually, if you're on YouTube, groups expats.on.lockdown. So expats in Southeast Asia on lockdown. And I will give you tomorrow's lottery numbers for the low price. Audio is great. Thank you very much, Buddy Lewis. Very much appreciated. So I'm having my 3-in-1. I thought I'd do a little show and tell. If you guys aren't familiar with what a 3-in-1 is, this is my brand right here, Moccona, and Moccona Trio Gold, and again, Robusta beans, no big whoop. And but this is Nescafe. This is probably Rique's brand. I know it's Gracie's brand. So if you ever meet me and Gracie, and if you're of that culture where you like have to give a gift to a couple when you meet them the first time, give Gracie some Nescafe. Change her life. So you know what's funny? I was on Rique's live stream yesterday, and he, like a lot of us actually, when we see our friends, right, that are in the chat, and we see struggling YouTube channels, or when those guys see struggling YouTube channels, that a lot of times they'll say what I'm about to say right now, which is if there's anyone watching on YouTube and you see a YouTube channel in there that you do not recognize, and you're like, oh my God, what's that? For example, Steppin' Out. You may not know that guy. And so 3 dots to the right, click go to channel and hit the subscribe red button. Let's just do that right off the bat. I'll remind you ad nauseum throughout this entire live show. But nonetheless, when I was watching or listening to Rique's live stream yesterday, he was talking about, some of us, and he made the comment, and it's funny, I know these guys, I know them really well, I know them personally, and they actually are pretty much like they are on the camera in real life. And then he makes this comment. He goes, so I had some guy come up to me and he's like, so, like that Mike guy, I mean, what's his deal, man? And Rique's like, no, he's always just like that. He's really animated. And the guy's like, oh, okay. So this isn't an act. I hate to break it to any of you guys. I wake up this way. I think there's a lot of guys on here for the most part. And he's got a 3-in-1 over there. Oh, Blanca, that's right. Yeah, he's really into the frou-frou. Someone made the comment on the last stream that's like, well, when you guys grow up and get up to like real coffee, like when you have a French press, right, and you get your beans mixed just so. I think I mentioned last time, my buddy Sean in San Diego. He loves good coffee, and he spends probably more time talking about good coffee than that 4-hour work week guy, whose name I just literally had in my brain but then forgot. And of course I could Google it. But anyway, that guy talks a lot about coffee and spends way too much time on coffee, in my opinion. Get 3-in-1 in any Thai store. Absolutely, dude. You can walk into a 7-Eleven and say, hey, so here, heat this up for me. Or there's hot water there for you. And I'm telling you, man, living the dream. I want to say 7 cents a cup is what I'm down to now. And given the way the markets have been in the last month, that's good. I like saving money. So what is happening in your lives? I hope we can address that as well. But I will just give you an update sort of on what's happening here in Thailand, April 7th, 2020, about 9 a.m. And the stuff that I know. The first thing is, if you don't know, this past weekend, the airports, all of them, because all of the airports are basically managed by an organization called AOT, Airports of Thailand. And they closed them for all commercial traffic. So military and that sort of thing. And I would submit, I mean, the article wasn't super specific. There were many articles, but a lot of them are just reprints of like what the other newspaper, if you will, does, which is blog, really. But so my belief, at least, from the data that I've gathered, it was that over the weekend the airports were closed. Then yesterday night, I believe, I don't want to misspeak. How much is a pocket if I buy in bulk? I do buy in bulk, actually, and that's what makes them 7 cents. The airports are now closed to all commercial traffic through April 18th. That was the report I saw this morning. There's no guarantee that it was published this morning. I woke up this morning. And so, therefore, that was when I grabbed the data. Now, you guys have possibly been to Suvarnabhumi Airport. I think it's pretty awesome. My first sort of my initial experience with international airports were ones in the U.S., of course, when I wasn't necessarily flying internationally. So LAX and Atlanta, Chicago, I mean, these really large hubs, San Francisco, right? And then I came over here to, I flew in first through Taipei, Taiwan. And I got off in the airport, and of course I had these preconceived notions of, okay, I didn't think that Taiwan was a third world country, but I will tell you right now, until my feet hit the ground in Thailand, I did have this sort of data in the back of my head, primarily because of the propaganda from most of my colleagues, that it was a third world country, and that's completely false, okay? Additionally, if you want to know all the description of like why it's a third world country, what third world means, what second world means, a phrase that's rarely ever used, or what first world means, and one could argue that really the only reason that there's a first, second, and third world is because all of us in the first world countries decided, well, let's label ourselves number one, and then everyone else will be less than. And so that's Mike's view on politics. I don't agree with it. Anyway, so I come over here, and I land at the airport. And it's pretty impressive, right? So it's pretty nice. Well, then I started experiencing a few more airports in Southeast Asia. South Korea, Incheon Airport is a fantastic airport. I believe that's Rike's number one favorite. My number one favorite, and maybe a number one favorite of yours, is Singapore Changi Airport. Singapore Changi Airport, to me, is absolutely phenomenal. Brian says, I actually know you have no clue, but what's your ballpark when the trash blows over? When this trash blows over. I was hoping to be living back over there by July. Give a brother some hope. Short answer, come on over, buddy. The flights are cheap. I have no idea, and I'll get to that, actually, an answer to that may disappoint you. But I can tell you that I have flights booked for July. You know, and I got a good deal on them, but I also have the ability to get full refund and that sort of thing, because that's what all the airlines are doing right now. But to the Singapore Changi Airport, which is, again, my favorite, I believe it's gorgeous. They are shutting down Terminal 2 until 2021. So they believe that while they may start flying again, and people may start entering Singapore and exiting Singapore and using their airport, they're shutting down half of it. Because they're like, look, we're just not going to have the business. Now, again, you know, when you get more business, you open up more stuff, right? So they may do that. But today it was announced Singapore is closing down all of Terminal 2. So that's sort of a big indication, I think. And what I've discovered is that it seems like large sweeping changes will occur like in one country, and then they won't necessarily always occur in the same country, and then all of a sudden many other countries seem to follow suit. So I don't know whether that means other airports will consider closing. I can tell you right now that if Manila closes one or two of their airports because there's no people, I would be thrilled. Manila, if you've ever been there, they have 4 terminals. And I can tell you right now, as far as I'm concerned, they have 4 airports. The damn terminals are so far apart. I've taken a probably 1 hour flight, I think, from Boracay, Caticlan, MPH, up to Manila. Landed at the airport, and then I needed to change terminals and then go to my next flight. And I swear to you that the flight from Boracay up to Manila took half the time that it took me to get from like Terminal 1 to Terminal 2 or 3 or 4. They're enormously far apart, and, you know, also Manila is, you know, it's got pretty horrible traffic. But I will tell you, here's why capitalism works really well. I had to do a similar thing. I don't remember where I was coming from at the time, but I had to do a similar hop. I had to come into Manila, and then I had to switch terminals, and I had to leave right away. I had 30 minutes. Now, the fantasy of getting from like Terminal 1 to Terminal 2 or 3 to 3 in Manila in less than 30 minutes is, it's truly that. It's a fantasy. Manila Port is very confusing. I agree, absolutely. And Buddy says, just because the flights open up again doesn't mean they won't make you sick. Absolutely. Long time shutdown. That's a long time to shut down an entire terminal. Completely agree, man. And then iTruck, I'm not sure the U.S. is the first world country any longer. Can you say downgraded in air quotes? I get it, man. I absolutely get it. There's a very good reason why I'm over here. Because I can tell you right now, when all this nonsense was happening, I may not have had as much money in my investment bucket account as I did, like a 1 month prior, but my credit card still worked, and I could have gotten on a plane, and I could have flown back to the United States. Rike and I even chatted about it. But it was also like, okay, so if you've seen my video on when I had an earache and I went to the hospital recently, I mean, the medical care here is amazing. I found the next hospital I will go to. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but for the sake of argument, I'll just say it's Samijevit. And I don't think that that's right, but it's like Samitija, something like that, hospital, private hospital here in Bangkok. You walk in the lobby, there is a guy in a tux playing a piano. So if you ever want to know what it's like if they were to basically take a Nordstrom's or a Neiman Marcus and put it into like the lobby of a hospital, those are real things here in Thailand. And even the most expensive, so I'll give you an example. My buddy of mine who lives down the street, Direction Bangkok is his channel. So he was over and he went to that hospital and he had an earache and he had to get some medication, but he also had a very similar doctor interface that I had for my ear. And that was approximately $1,500. And then there was another $1,500 in medication. Sorry, 1,500 baht. Let me be clear. We're not in Coronado, okay? We're in Bangkok. 1,500 baht for the meeting with the doctor and the hospital fees, and then it would have been another 1,500 baht, or it was another 1,500 baht for the medication I believe he bought there. Regardless, my experience was basically that. My experience was like 1,500 baht to meet with the doctor, and then there was the doctor's fees, in addition to like the hospital fees, maintenance, administration. They put that in the invoice, and so it was basically the same price. And so if you want to go in and effectively like pay cash for the most expensive, one of the most expensive, Bumrungrad is arguably even probably more expensive than that. But yeah, it's about $50 to go meet with a doctor and have them an ENT. Rika says, I love Incheon Airport Terminal 2, but only because I haven't been to Singapore yet. I got to tell you, buddy, it is something else. That when you hear the statement before going to Singapore, you may have heard the statement. It is the most expensive, right? I was thinking about Chris Farley just then. Bathe regularly. Own a toothbrush. I love him, dude. He was a great guy. Shiny red ball. Singapore is the most expensive city in the world. Okay, and their airport reflects that. It is perfect. There's imperfection. And it's not like there's a guy in the lobby in front of the Asia Air terminal check-in counter playing the piano. But it's a pretty damn nice airport. And let's just say this. If you've done any international travel, I would submit to you that all of us who have probably been to Singapore or Doha's not awesome, but Saudi Arabia, Dubai is, right? DBX, I think. There's arguably 10 really spectacular airports in the globe, and I would submit to you that if you don't believe Singapore's number one, I would argue that you would agree it's in the top 10. So, but yeah, the other one that's pretty good too, Rike, very similar, I think, in offerings. Maybe not as well kept up, maybe, as this South Korean one. Narita in Tokyo. I thought that was pretty good. Does the pianist take requests? Have him play La Bamba? Absolutely. Yeah. I want to say a long, long time ago. I was like, oh my God, no. Not that song about him hating his dad because he didn't spend any time with him. American Pie was what I was referring to, if you weren't familiar with my dulcet tones of reproducing that song rather than playing the original from MP3. Stepanow says, I like Direction Bangkok Channel 2. Great hotel deals. Absolutely. He's a very cool guy. He lives about less than a kilometer. Well, I would have to walk out to Sukhumvit and then down. So probably about 1 or 2 kilometers from me. I met him in person first when Gracie and I were over on Koh Chang Island. And to the point of, like, when you see YouTubers put videos up, Gracie and I went over to Koh Chang Island it was probably about a month ago by now. And, people were wearing masks and that sort of thing. But it wasn't the craziness here. And, we went over there in a boat. There was a bunch of people around us, and we were down inside the boat or up top. But most people were wearing masks, so they were conscious of it. But again, it's Southeast Asia. When someone has a cold, the thing about that is that we were over in Koh Sichang, and I'm like cruising up on the motorbike, and I see this guy stepping out. If you've seen his videos, you know that like crazy kind of pseudo camouflage blue and yellow hoodie thing that he wears. And, there's probably only one of those that exist because they probably made it accidentally and said, crap, they're supposed to be green or tan for the guys in in Afghanistan. We made these for the wrong people. It's a really cool hoodie, actually. But anyway, I think he's the only one on the planet that owns one. And so we're driving up, and I see that, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? He's like, how did you recognize me? I'm like, bro, you're only like one of 9 other people on the planet that own that hoodie. So anyway, so we talked. Oh, God, I don't want to get this wrong. I believe his name is Andrew, but I could be completely wrong. For some reason, I'm really bad with names. But yeah, it is a really good channel. He's a really good guy. He does videos every single day, and he's out walking around. I don't judge that in the sense that I think it's a bad idea, because if you watch his videos, he's very conscious about the whole social distancing thing, meaning that like he'll go out into a park that effectively is closed, so there's nobody else around. But it's kind of neat when he does go on sort of the thoroughfares, right? So Sukhumvit, or when he's up on the walkway, because you get an idea of how nothing is going on. I mean, it's really interesting being here in Bangkok, which is absolutely a 25-hour-a-day city. And to have it be at the level of energy that it's at right now, it feels really weird. It's funny. I obviously, as you might guess, I'm old, but I'm not really old. I didn't live through World War I or World War II, and the Vietnam War was really only something that I had historical knowledge of, right? I watched all the movies afterwards and, saw the documentaries. Nova, love you. Oh my God, my sister. She's so amazing. Another cool thing about Nova is that when she and I first met, what we had in common prior to that day was the fact that we also worked in radio. She was on Jammin' Z90 in San Diego. 100,000 watts of boom. 90.3 FM. They were a cool station. The owner was crazy, actually. The owner was obsessed with, not Charles Lindbergh, Howard Hughes. He was obsessed with Howard Hughes and Victor Diaz. And he was a really interesting guy, man. He had a really interesting vision, but he was one of those guys that was like just a little bit out there. But he was pretty successful. So, and I'm hoping right now that you aren't hearing the that's going on behind me. I think I've got the compression and the expansion on this mic turned up such that if I like go away from it, you pretty much don't hear any background noise, so I'm hoping you're not hearing that. It's no big deal. I mean, what is it? It's like 9:23 in the morning here, so, any construction you're doing after 9 o'clock, then that's kind of acceptable, so. Angela, what up? So Angela's amazing. I'll tell you why. Because I met her. The short answer is she and I met through Playboy, okay? But she is the founder and director and vision for a very amazing nonprofit called It's All About the Kids Foundation. And you know how like people joke around and say, oh, well, it's all about the kids. But no, like that's the name of that organization, and that's what they do. It is all about the kids. And so anyway, so she and I met through a party that she was throwing, because the way that she would sometimes get donations for that organization was to throw these really cool parties, right? And the signature party that she started, well, right now, I want to say, well, they don't do it any longer because it's closed, but she used to throw a annual party up at the Playboy Mansion, which doesn't exist anymore. There is a physical building, but nobody refers to it as the Playboy Mansion, otherwise they get chastised heavily. Anyway, essentially Los Angeles, but it's kind of Beverly Hills area. Anyway, so I was able to go to that twice. That was pretty awesome. Actually, twice with her through the organization. Then we had another rock and roll fantasy camp, if you guys have ever heard of that. Steven Tyler was sort of the host of that. There were some other bands, but it was a really awesome event. Anyway, so she's chatting on Facebook. So if you hop over to Facebook, you can see her name there in the window. I invite you to find her. Because the organization that she has, that she supports many, many kids with who go on to have epic, bright futures. It's all about the Kids Foundation. And so, yeah, connect with her if you're into that. I can completely understand why you'd be like, Mike, so I can't buy groceries right now. Lost my job. And the government, bless their hearts, going to give me $600 a week, which over here in Southeast Asia is a lot of money. I can tell you, though, from living in Coronado, it is not a lot of money in Southern California, but it's better than nothing, as they say. Stepping Out mentions that Direction Bangkok wears a mask and face coverings all the time when he goes out. Yeah, which is totally cool. I mean, again, there's the discussion over here in this part of the world by us farang, by us foreigners, or if you're from the Philippines, by us Cano, or if you're Mexican, us gringos, that, there is no medical proof that it does any good. But then, I think we've all sort of transitioned into, look, dude, at the end of the day, who cares? Okay, wear it because that's what the social norm is, right? I'll give you a great example. In Thailand, on the beaches, you can absolutely, as a man, you can go topless, right? For a woman, you need to cover your top, but, tight, small bikini kind of thing. But what is not really socially acceptable is to be that guy and be walking on the beach, with your shirt off and your shorts on, and you're cruising along, and you just got out of the water. You're like, oh, I'm going to go get a burger or whatever, and you walk across the street into a restaurant and you get some food. No. Thank you, Stepping Out. You don't hear background noise. I'm glad. I do. It's coming from there. And so it's either my neighbor being like, look, dude, you're driving me bonkers with this friggin' radio nonsense over there, or they're actually installing something. The entire building is concrete, right, and rebar. So when you want to hang a picture, you got to call a guy because you got to install a whole. Anyway, Marston Hefner. Where does he live and work? I don't know. That was his name. David Somerville says, I don't hear your audio. And I assume he is listening on my personal Facebook page. So I'm really bummed if that's the case. And I absolutely apologize. Missy, you're also probably on my Facebook. Can you hear me okay? I hope so. Because David Somerville has a bitchin' last name, so therefore we want to make sure he's getting full audio. So if I... Yep. You gotta call a guy. I hear it. So anyway, I hope you can. If not, then just go to that link at the top of the screen there, liveMyAssOff.live. That will take you to the YouTube channel. And I would submit that the YouTube channel is probably got, either the same, if not better fidelity. So sorry about that, David. And again, hi, Missy. Good to see you. Stepping Out says you can get a couple of burritos in Coronado with $1,200. Absolutely. There is a, it's not, but let's just refer to it as a hole-in-the-wall Mexican restaurant in Coronado, which, of course, is complete garbage because the food there is actually quite excellent, but it's expensive. I think a carne asada burrito is $14. It's $13.95. Kind of a lot. Caesar says, seen lots of topless on Patong Beach, Phuket. Hey, big ones, grandma. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, the only nude beach that I was sort of privy to in San Diego was the one just below Torrey Pines State Park. And of course, I moved to San Diego, right? And I'm 21. And I'm hearing, oh my God, they got a nude beach. I got to go down there, stare at the girls, and I go down there, and it's basically a bunch of old nude men, bunch of old nude men, playing volleyball, So you can, so burn that into your brain. No, so I mean, it was just okay, it's a little anticlimactic. Not going to do this again. However, I have been to Jamaica, where they have nude beaches, and I can tell you that in Jamaica, I like nude beaches. It's also a pretty freeing experience, actually. The cool thing, here's the interesting thing. I don't know if you guys ever had these dreams when you were a kid, you'd in your dream, you'd show up at school in your pajamas or naked or something like that. You'd be, right? And so, yeah, because that's not the social norm. Whereas in Jamaica, if you go to a nude beach and you're not nude, it's dude, it's kind of like Little Beach, for example, in Maui, right? There's Big Beach, which is huge, truly, and that's where it's a regular beach. And then there's this rock area, and you go over that. And there's Little Beach, and that's a clothing optional beach. And I'll tell you right now too. So I'm there with my girlfriend. This is 2012. So I'm there with Sherry at the time. And we're like, okay, cool, let's go for it, right? So we take off our clothes and we're hanging out and we get in the water, and she's got one of these waterproof cameras at the time. So I start doing the whole, taking a selfie thing. Oh my God. People that were totally, clearly not in the frame were like, hey, no pictures. So that's also a social norm there. Do not bring a camera. That's kind of good. Missy says she hears it on Facebook. Awesome. Juan gives me a laughing out loud. Good for you. I hope you didn't wake the neighbors. Rumor is French models do it too on PP Island. Yeah, I would guess. I mean, people that don't care about that, they're just like, hey, look, I'm going to take, I'm at the beach. This is kind of like what I like to do. Some people could argue, well, I don't like tan lines. Other people are like, oh, I just want to be, crazy or whatever. Or there's, there wasn't a full moon party, but now I can go crazy and I can be silly, or I'm drunk. So I'm going to take my clothes off. But Brian says breast burritos at the front of the Nana Hotel parking lot. Interesting. Because I know exactly where that is. If you guys are, Bangkokians, I'm trying to think, because I know, like, there's an ATM right there. And as far as I know, is it like if you were to walk from the street through the parking lot, Brian, do you walk, because there's the Hooters, right? Do you walk past the Hooters and then it's like another little place, like in a strip mall, on there as you walk into the parking lot? That's kind of interesting. I didn't know that. Or maybe you're being facetious. Maybe that's kind of like saying, oh, dude, Hooters has the best chicken wings. No, they're gross, man. I mean, the food at Hooters is not why you go to Hooters, right? It's ridiculous. Oh, do you know that the dancing here, actually, that the waitresses do, I think they do it like once an hour, top of the hour or something like that, in their cute little outfits. But man, I gotta tell you, they're pretty damn energetic. I was over at because I cruised by the Hooters over at Nana. This is like, I don't know, 2-3 months ago or whatever, obviously when there wasn't crazy going on. And because I was like, oh, there's a Hooters here. And I know that there's one in Pattaya, and it's, it's lame, it's overpriced. And, it's like, okay, look, like I can't see pretty girls in Pattaya, right? If I go to like the restaurant next door, so I got to go to this Hooters and have lousy food. And so I was like, oh, I wonder what it's like in Bangkok. And they were energetic. I mean, I was like, man, they should put poles in here. I mean, these girls are getting, this is and I don't know whether they get tips for that or something like that. So, Caesar says, back to nature in paradise. Gag on Greece in Hooters. Yeah, I will tell you that I went there, of course, right? Because when they first opened, I was living in San Diego, and I was like probably in my early 20s. And the one came to town, and I don't know whether it was like early on in their franchise rollout or whether they had, just already been a company for a long time. But so I went with a buddy of mine, we ordered the wings, and we're like, oh, the girls are so cute, kind of thing. And then I'm like, okay, so right, because like I lived in PB, and I was a block and a half from the Pacific Beach, which is basically a community of San Diego. And I lived a block and a half from the beach, and the beach was very long and wide, and it went all the way down to Mission Beach, and basically that beach, for the sake of argument, it basically extends all the way to Mexico. There's obviously rocks, and you can't like use it the whole time, but the point is that, like I couldn't, find pretty girls to look at in Pacific Beach, California, right? And, but nonetheless, we went, and yeah, the food was gross. I'm trying to think, maybe I got food poisoning the last, when I was, and I haven't been in one in probably 20 years, So anyway, so Singapore Changi Terminal 2 airport's closed. Back to a topic that my mom will actually care about. Poles and Hooters. Well, why not one? I mean, come on, man. So Brian says, directly across from Hooters, open air stand, yellow awning. Directly across from Hooters. Okay. So right in front of the entrance to Nana, right? Cool. Awesome. I'll have to cruise over there. When I can. I mean, I can. Like, I could, grab my ID and that sort of thing, and a face mask, and, head down to Sukhumvit. I think I can still take the BTS. I believe that is still running. Obviously, there's curfews on everything here in Thailand, as well as, specifically Bangkok, of course. That's where I'm living right now. And Dozer says, there used to be a huge disco in Nana Hotel called Angel Disco. How long ago, man? Because my first trip here, I do not believe, and I stayed like right on the other side of Nana Hotel. I was at the JW the first time I stayed in Thailand. And edge of the parking lot. Okay, awesome, cool, good. Very good. I'll have to check it out. Good to know, Brian. So let me get back to Brian's question about, do you think I can come over here in July? If the statistics that I have and pay attention to, and in fact, I tell you what, let's do this and I'll talk to it. Which means I'm going to miss your comments, but I do have an entire screen open that shows me all the comments. If I miss any, I will go back. If you see your comment scrolling, or if it scrolls by in back in the day 13 years ago, so that would have been 2007. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I was here, first time I was here was 5 years after that. So Nana Disco, it rocked. Good to hear, man. That's cool. I'll tell you, I have been to some I've been to some amazing, discos, right? We don't call them that, but they're discos, nightclubs. Because if you say nightclubs over here, people think you're going to a strip club. Whereas if you say disco back home, they're like, okay, you're not from here. Like, what does that mean? Or like, okay, Johnny Fever. Like, why are you, anyway, not Johnny Fever. Saturday Night Fever. Okay, whatever. Anyway, let's go to this and let's chat about it. So here we are with Thailand. I'm sorry, Singapore. I wanted to start with Singapore. And again, as I've brought up in previous casts, my math is not... what I love is the quote from Iron Man. And it goes by really fast, but I guess this brain picked it up. He says, now, if my math is correct, which it always is. So anyway, so if my math is correct, and you write the slope, going here, this one could argue is an edge case and is an anomaly, but it is the report from 4/5. Today is the 7th, which means for some reason the stats from the 6th haven't come in yet. But, they're basically on the increase. They were going up, maybe went down a little bit here, going back up, 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 up. So I can understand why Singapore's like, okay, we got to make some pretty big commitments here, which is closing our silly airport. But Thailand, what I wanted to talk about with Thailand is what I believe is good news, is the fact that I believe, 26 deaths. The total number of new ones, I mean, this was like 2,000 just, shortly a few days ago. But look at this slope, baby. And I believe there's a number in here that hasn't been... Yes, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so see, since it is the 7th here, then we do have the 6th worth of data. And for some reason, Singapore hasn't, I guess, published theirs. But yeah, so this was the report I got today. You may not be able to see this number. But yesterday, there were 51 new cases. The previous day, there were 102, 89 during the last live stream. And again, I think this is the slope. Now... historically, you could say, yeah, that's a little bit low. Really, it should be here. And, maybe tomorrow it'll be or the numbers for today, right, that will be published tomorrow. But 51, dude, I mean, that is, as far as Brian goes, coming over here in July, I got to tell you, dude, if the numbers keep going in this direction, I don't see why you wouldn't, other than the fact that you may come over here and the U.S. might be like, okay, you can leave all day long, dude. But you come back in and forget it. Because I can tell you, I'll show you guys another, because look at the numbers for the United States. My God. Talk about not wanting to be number1.com. I mean, dude, 3.7, come on. And what's crazy is, I don't know if you can see the interesting amount of refresh down here on the left-hand side, just above my head, 366,000. And they're like, oh, yeah, but actually it's 368,000. So who knows? Obviously there's some degree of variation. Now, if we look at this and we follow Mike's math, which is always correct,